Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Wilson. I'm the Congregational Life Coordinator here at First Universalist Church, and it is my honor to welcome you here this morning to our service. If this is your first time here, or maybe second time, we especially welcome you and thank you for joining us today. Please remain after for coffee hour in the Clara Barton Lounge behind us. For more connection, and online in the same Zoom link, we have online coffee hour. And speaking of coffee hour, may be a little bit light today, and I'm not talking about the roast. We need volunteers for coffee hour. So if you love it as much as I do, step up and let's keep coffee hour going. If you're looking for more connection beyond coffee hour, we have a number of things coming up in the next month or so. I'm just going to rattle off some things. Some are in your order of service. We've got the UU and U introductory next week. We are looking to launch LGBTQ and immigration social justice groups. We have the Harvest Potluck later this month. We're doing a playground project next month, and the New York State Convention of Universalists bicentennial is next month with the UUA president. So lots to be involved with. If you're not aware of these things or aren't getting our emails, please fill out the visitors form on the back of your order of service or online in the chat so that we can stay connected and offer a welcome beyond what we can do this morning. Two other quick little notes. If you ordered a Side with Love t-shirt, they are in, so see me afterwards for those in the volunteer office. And if you requested a name tag or want a name tag, you can see those in the Clara Barton Lounge on the welcome table. Just make sure you write legibly so we can make sure to spell your name correctly. Okay, before we take a moment to say hi to each other in person, let's say hello to our online community and wave towards the camera, the Progress Pride flag back there. We're so happy you're here joining us. If you're online, go ahead and pop a greeting into the chat and say hi to each other. And if you're here in person, let's take a moment to turn towards our neighbor and say hello.
Good morning. I want to invite you to stay standing or rise in body or in spirit and sing together our opening hymn number 21 in your gray hymnal or on the screens in front of you.
Oh Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Osta, and I'm here to welcome you all again. And again, it's a thrill to welcome again Reverend Eileen. A brief lesson this morning in theology, liberation theology. A headline in the July 1st National Catholic Reporter states, "Liberation theologians in Latin America express hope for Pope Leo. After more than 30 years of conservatism under Popes John Paul II and Benedict, Pope Francis's tenure represented a radically new time. Pope Leo continues that hope. A movement as expansive as the Catholic Church makes a difference. So does a movement that is as focused as Unitarian Universalism. It's this difference that helps me to breathe in the goodness and let go of the oppression that has been so ingrained in the Catholicism I grew up with. In the past several years, along with Bill Schubmel, I've been going out on Thursdays that I can to talk with people who are houseless. Why? Because I can. Why? Because I learn by listening to the story behind the odors, the toothlessness, the vacant eyes. I learn about the oppression caused by disparity and disdain. I go home to my suburban comfort a little more uncomfortably. I think more often about what I can bring each week to provide some modicum of comfort, some words of acceptance. I remember conversations with a man named David who said, "Will you just tell them I want a place to live?" as he sat clutching his plastic bag of belongings in the harsh winter weather. Or the barely teenage Eve's eyes that darted when she was offered a place in a shelter. "Not going back there ever," she said resolutely. I'm glad to learn that liberation theology, defined in the late 60s as a preferential option for the poor, continues to be a way to dismantle oppressive structures. Peruvian priest Gustav Gutierrez defined the movement, and these 50 years later, leaving pages and decades of criticism behind, the core principle remains the same: to share God's love and justice for those who are poor and oppressed. Though it's too late for me to benefit from it, Vatican II and the social encyclical Popularum Progressio became beacons of hope for hundreds of thousands of the faithful who hungered to be a part of bringing peace and justice to a religion that had been fashioned from gold goblets and oppressed by antiquated notions of secularism and spirituality. The birth of Black liberation theology and the feminist theology rocked the foundations of conservative beliefs. Today, questions of what direction Pope Leo will lead the Catholic Church pale for me, insignificant, as I read about the UU churches around the world who are delving beyond questions to actions that dismantle and love that builds. It is this denomination, in its own liberation, guides me forward. Come, let us worship together. As Dave Van Arsdale comes forward to light our chalice at First Universalist, and you light a chalice in your own homes, please join me in our chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in comfort and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we comfort each other and with all. Giving money, pardon me, giving money to folks sitting on a highway is often awkward. We wonder if it's for drugs or to get high. We stretch across the traffic whirling around us. Giving money at our church isn't awkward. We know it's not for drugs, and we can get high on the goodness that it might bring. And there's no traffic to stretch across. Please place your offerings in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. This is a great time to place visitors' forms in the basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
So you may have seen that I'm going to be talking about the service berry on Tuesday with the discussion group, which is one of the newest books by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who also wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, which our church was focused on a bit last year. But her newest book, hot off the presses last week, just in time for this service, is Bud Finds Her Gift. There once was a little child called Bud who was very good at noticing. She noticed the shapes of clouds. This one you can't quite see up there, but it looks a little bit like a fish. She noticed the smell of cookies baking. And even where Daddy had left his keys. We need this girl in my house. She noticed that everyone always had something important to do. everyone but her. So she went to talk to Nokomis, which is a Potawatomi word for grandmother. Everyone is doing big, important things, Bud told her grandmother. I want to do something big and important, too. Nokomis nodded. Come with me tomorrow morning, and we will do something very important indeed. Bud's heart soared. Soon she would do a big thing, but what could it be? At sunrise, Bud and Nokomis walked uphill to stand beside a tall tree. Raising her arms in the new light, Nokomis said, "Good morning, morning. Thank you for the gift of this day. Thank you for the birds and the trees and the dew and the flowers. Thank you for all the gifts that we are given." Bud watched and waited, and then she asked, "Will we do the important thing soon?" Nokomis laughed. "This is the important thing." Taking time for noticing and saying thank you for the gifts of the earth. Gifts, Bud said. I don't see any bags or boxes. These gifts don't come in bags or boxes. They come from the earth. Look here. And Nokomis showed Bud a strawberry. A bunch of wild strawberries. It was the sweetest thing Bud had ever tasted. Is this one of the gifts, Nokomis? Yes, you are very good at noticing, my little Bud. Now notice more. Notice with your eyes and ears and fingertips. Listen with your heart. Try it tomorrow and see what happens. The next morning, Bud stood by the same tall tree, noticing as hard as she could. Noticing with her eyes, she saw the colors of the sky. Noticing with her toes, she felt the dewy grass. Noticing with her ears, she heard the beautiful bird song. Listening with her heart, she heard the bird sing. Everyone from the day of their birth was given a gift to share with the earth. I was given the gift of this song, so I share it with you all morning long. The music drifting through the treetops felt like a gift. Thank you, Robin, Bud said. Bud watched Robin pick at a bit of moss and carry it to a branch. Noticing with her eyes, she saw the moss growing shiny and green and fluffy. Noticing with her fingers, she found it was soft, like cloth. Listening with her heart, she heard the moss chant, everyone from the day of their birth is given a gift to share with the earth. Being soft and green is what I do best, so I share with the birds to make a warm nest. You give gifts to the birds, Bud said, and we all get to hear their songs. Thank you, Moss. Now Robin was eating the strawberries. Everyone likes berries, Bud thought. Here's the best part. Then Robin pooped on the soil. The little pile of poop made Bud laugh. She noticed it was full of strawberry seeds. Seeds Robin had just planted. Listening through her laughter, she heard the little poop trill. Everyone from the moment of birth is given a gift to share with the earth. Even bird poop is a gift for the berries, for the special delivery of the seeds that it carries. Thank you, Poop, she said, then giggled. Bud kept noticing. She noticed the soil holding the seeds and the seeds growing up to make leaves. She noticed caterpillars eating the leaves and butterflies pollinating the flowers, flowers becoming berries, and mushrooms turning everything back to soil. Everyone played a part, giving gifts to one another all the time, each gift leading to the next. The more Bud noticed, the more thankful she became. Saying thank you for all these gifts was very important indeed. But was it enough? It was time to talk to Nokomis again. Did you find gifts? Nokomis asked. I saw birds and moss and butterflies, Bud said. They each had a gift to share, and even poop planted seeds. I want to be part of it too and give a gift as well. But I can't make nests or leaves or berries. Nokomis, what is my gift? Nokomis hugged her. Don't think about the things you can't do. Think about the things you can do. Those are your gifts, my dear. Bud thought about Nokomis's words and began to notice herself, her arms, her legs, her voice. Suddenly, Bud began to sing. Everyone from the day of their birth was given a gift to share with the earth. She picked up her shovel. I was given the gift of hands and knees, so I share with all by planting more trees. Bud noticed happiness growing inside her. Bud kept singing and sharing. I was given the gift of my words to remind us to care for the bees and the birds. I was given the gift of my art, and I share with you all, so we'll all do our part. So she's helping write signs and for the garden and for protest and encouragement. I was given the gift of seeing, so I share it with people to watch out for all beings. Bud called, Nokomis, I found my big important thing to do. I have gifts to give too. Well done, my little Bud, Nokomis said. Now listen again with your heart. What do you hear? Bud listened. It was as if everyone, including Robin and the moss and even the little poop, was singing. Everyone from the day of their birth is given a gift, or many gifts, to share with the earth. You will know that your gift is true when you hear the earth be thankful for you. When you find yourself sharing a gift of any shape or size, and it feels warm and right and brings you joy, those are the gifts. And I often say to my kiddo, our purpose here is to figure out what our gifts are and to find the best ways to share them with the world. I invite you to notice that it is a second Sunday, which is one of the special times of the month where we give the gifts of tangible food or finances to the community cupboard on Nestor Street. If we have some of our little helpers who, if you have brought food today that you haven't brought up, if you'd raise your hand, and if our helpers want to come and grab it and be strong and bring it up to our baskets, little helpers, big helpers, awesome. We're all learning. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to the helpers who take this food to the community cupboard on Nestor Street. We do have a box here for checks or bills that you might want to contribute that the food cupboard can then leverage to buy the foods that they are needing most. Awesome. Thank you so much. Please, I invite any kiddos who want to go upstairs for children's worship to come with me, and we'll all sing together our doxology.
I invite you now into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered place. We know so much is going on with our world today, and if you have sorrows or joys to share on behalf of our national or global community, you are truly encouraged to do so today and into the future. As Elizabeth places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. All online are invited to share their joys and sorrows in the chat. This morning, we share concern with Beth Ayers for a friend who is recovering at home following a hospitalization for pneumonia. We share joy with Charlie and Lisa, who are happy to have 3 of their favorite people in church with them today, Herman, Al, and Brendan. We share with Bill a joy that 43 years ago today, their daughter Stephanie was born. We share a joy from Richard Reed that he enjoyed a wonderful concert in Kilburn Hall with Anne on Thursday. A joy from Joy that New Mexico approved free childcare for everyone in the state. We share a mixed joy and sorrow for a neighbor who passed away and a service that was a beautiful tribute to his life, reconnection with old friends over that sorrow. We share with John Lukes a gratitude that we're able to participate in this community via Zoom. A joy and gratitude to the 7 First Universalists who opened the restrooms and participated in greeting all of the folks who were here for the Fringe event in Washington Square yesterday. And a joy from Kitty, our perpetual joy. Go Bills. Let's hope it's a joy. Today we share in a community ritual as well to honor the many joys and sorrows we bring into this space, whether they're read or spoken aloud or kept in the silent sanctuaries of our heart. In a moment, those here in person are invited to come forward to drop stones into the bowl. If you need to remain seated, please raise your hand and someone will come to you with a bowl to drop stones in. If you're joining online, please send a heart emoji in the meeting chat. Let us join in this collective ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows of us all now. Let us take a moment for centering and prayer, followed by some shared silence. Let's take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Let your feet find the earth beneath you. Let yourself feel held, supported by this community, by this good earth. Let us remember this morning in all our many joys and sorrows, however big the feelings on our heart may be, these hearts held by this community are enough to carry it all. Let us remember we have all that we need. And I offer these words from the poet Wendell Berry. Horseback on Sunday morning, harvest over, we taste persimmon and wild grape, sharp, sweet of summer's end. In time's maze over fall fields, we name names that rest on graves. We open a persimmon seed to find the tree that stands in promise, pale in the seed's marrow. Geese appear high over us, pass, and the sky closes. Abandon, as in love or sleep, holds them to their way, clear in the ancient faith. What we need is here. And we pray not for new earth or heaven, but to be quiet in heart and in eye clear. What we need is here. Amen, and blessed be. This morning's hymn of contemplation is number 1018 in the Teal hymnal, Rising Green. I want to offer a reading this morning, an excerpt from the Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She writes this: "This abundance of berries feels like a pure gift from the land. I have not earned, paid for, nor labored for them. There is no mathematics of worthiness that reckons I deserve them in any way. And yet, here they are, along with the sun and the air and the birds and the rain gathering in the towers of cumulonimbi. You could call them natural resources or ecosystem services, but the robins and I know them as gifts. We both sing gratitude with our mouths full. Saskatoon, Juneberry, Shadbush, Shadblow, Sugarplum, Sarvis, Serviceberry, these are among the many names. In Potawatomi, it is called Bazakman, which is superlative, the best of the berries. I agree with my ancestors on the rightness of that name. Imagine a fruit that tastes like a blueberry crossed with the satisfying heft of an apple, a touch of rose water, and a minuscule crunch of almond-flavored seeds. They taste like nothing a grocery store has to offer. Wild, complex with a chemistry that your body recognizes as the food it's been waiting for. For me, the most important part of the word bazakmin is min, the root word for berry. It appears in Potawatomi words for blueberry, strawberry, raspberry, even apple, maize, and wild rice. The revelation in that word is a treasure for me because it is also the root word for gift. In naming the plants who shower us with goodness, we recognize that these are gifts from our plant relatives, manifestations of their generosity, care, and creativity. When we speak of these not as things or products or commodities, but gifts, the whole relationship changes. I can't help but gaze at them, cupped like jewels in my hand, and breathe out my gratitude. As the berries plunk into my bucket, I'm thinking about what I'll do with them all. I'll drop some off for friends and neighbors, and I'll certainly fill a freezer for Juneberry muffins in February. This problem of managing decisions about abundance reminds me of a report that linguist Daniel Everett wrote as he was learning from a hunter-gatherer community in the Brazilian rainforest. A hunter had brought home a sizable kill, far too much to be eaten by his family. The researcher asked how he would store the excess. Smoking and drying technologies were well known. Storing was possible. The hunter was puzzled by the question. Store the meat? Why would he do that? Instead, he sent out an invitation to a feast, and soon the neighboring families were gathered around his fire until every last morsel was consumed. This seemed like maladaptive behavior to the anthropologist, who asked again, given the uncertainty of meat in the forest, why didn't he store the meat for himself, which is what the economic system of his home culture would predict? Store my meat? I store my meat in the belly of my brother, replied the hunter. And this is the end of this morning's reading. Our neighbor, Sharon, let's call her, lives alone. She goes to the flea market every Saturday and church every Sunday. She's 84 and tired of shoveling all the snow the Great Lakes deposit on her driveway. But she has pinched pennies all her life, and this past winter she just couldn't justify the cost of the plow service. She said she told the plow guy, "Don't come unless we get more than 6 inches. I'll handle it up to there." So my husband makes sure to clear her driveway whenever we get a Rochester dusting of up to 6 inches or so, because she's our neighbor and we love her. And every time she sees her driveway's been shoveled, she brings over a plate of cookies or a container of soup and a thank you note. And it's good soup. But I want to shout across the way, I who have not shoveled her driveway. What are y'all talking about in church every Sunday, Sharon? Did you not know that this was a gift, not a transaction? You don't owe anything for neighborly love. But I don't shout across the way. Of course, I take the soup and I say thank you because she's my neighbor and I love her. And she owes nothing, not even having to listen to my sermons from the driveway. I do want desperately for Sharon and for all of us to remember that this kind of love that looks like mutual care, is best when it's free. And only this kind of love can make us free. Love that is not owed to someone because they're in allegiance with you. Love that can't be earned or bought, and neither can it be unearned. It is outside the world of transaction. Liberation, I think, which is our bi-monthly theme, has to be outside the world of transaction. It has to be a full embrace of the love that will not leave anyone out and does not cost a thing. I know that getting outside the world of transaction, even imagining what might be beyond its borders in the way that Robin Wall Kimmerer is doing, is no small feat. Our modern social structure has so commodified every moment of our lives that we sometimes can't help but imagine love to be transactional as well. It's so invested in hierarchy that we've woven social order into our understanding of love. It is deeply ingrained in us to turn generosity into transaction, to bring the soup, to pay the debt, to treat love like a scarce commodity that we have to pay for. And I think liberation has to start with imagining a freer love, imagining a change in the direction of our thinking about love from being hierarchical to being lateral. If we risk a theology of love that is a ladder, a top-down hierarchical movement where salvation is transactional, we face the consequence that is our own isolation, desperation, that is spiritual bondage. And we can see how it's everywhere, right? The idea that resources are scarce and everything has to have a price, that there's no such thing as a free lunch, when every bit of sustenance we've ever had has been a gift freely given by this earth. We can see that it's everywhere, that this is the theology of America, of white Protestantism. This is a colonizing theology, this exchange of loyalty for love. The idea that we are alone in our indebtedness. The idea that love could have a cost. And because we've been indoctrinated to see even love through this lens, that therefore love is scarce somehow, and we can't afford to give it away. This, I am sorry to say it, is the theology of some of our spiritual ancestors, and it is high time to let it go. The good news is that we already hold within our communities, within our bodies, a better way. A theology of liberation is about turning love sideways, and we know how to do that. It is a deeply universalist way of thinking about divinity as not above us, but in the space between us. It is the theology that the earth itself is preaching, especially in this season of abundant harvest. Somewhere in our bodies, as part of the body of the earth, we already know it. To store our meat in our siblings' bellies is what is natural, what the earth models for us, calls us to do. Scarcity is what is utterly unnatural in a world of abundant life. Yes, giving makes us vulnerable, but vulnerability is the place where connection is possible. It is the location of our belonging. Vulnerability is the only way to make room for grace. And I know that grace as a theological construct is not something talk a lot about. In spite of the fact that it usually has to do with unearned gifts, particularly the gift of this circle of love, right? Not a one-directional charity, but a reciprocal loop that makes us whole, restored, saved, if you will. And our Universalist forebears were, of all the theologians, the most insistent that salvation is not an achievement won by our merit. It is gratuitous, a universal gift as unearned as being alive. And I think it's time we started talking about grace. Not the Christian nationalist grace that upholds capitalist colonialism by imagining a God who would trade salvation for loyalty, because it can't imagine a love that is free. I mean a grace that holds us in the kind of brokenness that isn't a propensity for sin, but is deep vulnerability at our core. The kind of brokenness that is like broken bread at a common table. Our need for one another. I don't mean grace like a commodity from some otherworldly being, whether we believe in one of those or not, paid for with the price of our certainty. I mean a relational generosity that is inherent to this world, to the earth itself. It matters that the abundance of this world is gratuitous. We did not earn an ounce of the earth's loveliness. We do not earn our way into being. Our being in this rich and lovely world, like every other being in the interdependent web, is entirely a gift of grace. That is the grace holding love at the center of our values, and imagining the world in that way is essential to its liberation. One of my kids' favorite games is Monopoly Junior. It's like regular Monopoly, but a little bit shorter, just a little bit. And my younger child, Ewan, he longs to win. But as the youngest, he doesn't even really fully understand the game, and he doesn't get to win games against his older brother very often. I was watching my kids play over the summer, and Ewan, for the first time, was blessed with some good luck and a sizable lead. He had just piles of colorful cash, stacks on stacks of properties, and I started to think about the best sermon I ever heard Scott Taylor preach. He was one of the ministers over at First Unitarian at the time, so maybe some of you have heard it as well. It was a commentary on capitalism during the Occupy movement in the early 2000s. And he talked about playing Monopoly as a child with his big brother. His big brother was not only better at the game, but also, allegedly, according to Reverend Scott, a cheater. I'm not here to hash that out. And Scott, comparing his childhood games to the American experience, said, "What can you do when you figure out the game is rigged against you? You quit playing the game." So I was thinking about this as I watched the little brother in my family start to take a lead that seemed uncatchable. I wondered how he would react to finally winning the game that had previously seemed to be rigged against him. They came to what looked like the final turn. Big brother Rory had $1 left, and the board was a minefield of Ewan's properties. He landed on one, and he couldn't afford the rent. Ewan had finally done it. But Ewan said, "You can stay there for free, Rory. I know you don't have the monies to pay me." Yeah. I tried to tell him that this was supposed to be the end of the game. This was how you win at Monopoly. Someone has to lose all their money for you to win. And he said, "I don't want to take his last dollar. I just want to keep playing together." And I think maybe this is what the other side of the rigged game looks like, right? When we understand that the game has been rigged on our behalf. Knowing that love is not transactional requires us not just to stop playing the game, but to imagine a different game altogether. No matter what side of the scaffolding of injustice we are on, love means breaking the rules of the game. Later this fall, my friend and comrade Petra Page Mann will guest preach here for us. She's a born and raised UU and a pastor's child even. And she and her partner Matthew run Fruition Seeds in Naples. 1 year ago, they broke the rules of the game. They didn't just imagine a different kind of love, they stopped just talking about it, and they decided to live it. So they took their booming business of cultivating and selling seeds and shifted it to become a nonprofit organization that gives seeds away. They accept gifts in return like any nonprofit, but they don't require it. The plants give freely and without expectation of payment, so Petra and Matthew decided that they should too. Around the time of this big shift they were making, we were chatting over dinner about how it has felt for them. It is hard for people to accept gifts, Petra noticed. To realize you really can take the seeds and offer nothing in that moment. Also, you can give fruition a gift and take nothing in that moment. The gifting goes both ways, but there is nothing owed, and that's been hard for people to accept. Matthew talked about this deep desire to avoid the sense he often has in grocery stores of being in a hostage situation. You choose a tomato, he said, and you bring it up front, and you have this exchange of like, give me this amount if you want to leave with the tomato, and there's hardly any consideration for one another as humans, and none at all for the gift the tomato has already given. We lose something of ourselves when the tomato becomes a commodity instead of the hopes and dreams and grandchildren of a particular plant who gave all its sweetness to the world for free. I thought of Sharon and how much more delicious it would be to receive her soup as a freely offered gift, not as payment for a task. How much more delicious it would feel to give her the gift of rest and know that she has no sense of debt around it. Only grace. Only belonging to a love that refuses to leave anyone out. And here's the thing I keep thinking, even though shifting the transactional mindset is hard, I think we are ready and eager to do it. I watched my last congregation in Canandaigua, who had worked alongside Matthew and Petra as community partners for the good of the Finger Lakes for years, react to their decision to break the rules of the game, not by going, oh yeah, free seeds, the way a scarcity economy would expect them to. Instead, the reaction across the board was to come to me and say, if Fruition is a nonprofit now, we can share our Sunday offering with them, right? Over and over and over. We can share our gifts more freely because they have stepped outside of the realm of transactional love. I know that this is a skill and a blessing that this congregation knows how to do. During that Occupy movement that Scott Taylor preached on, when I and lots of other young people were spending days and nights in the park across the way, pleading our neighbors to step outside the realm of transactional love, this congregation was bringing us soup and hot coffee on cold nights and asking nothing in exchange because we were your neighbors and you loved us. And no matter what indoctrination we've undergone, we know how to love our neighbors. There is something deep inside of us that knows that. I know this congregation already has these skills ready and eager to use them because one of you called the office on Tuesday morning to say, there is an ICE raid on Westminster near St. Paul's Episcopal, can you get there? Several of you graciously rescheduled a morning full of meetings, and yes, I got there, as did Reverend Sherry from First Unitarian the minute I called her, and Reverend Cindy Terlazzo from Canandaigua, and our very own Reverend Dick Gilbert when they were called, and a whole bunch of other UUs and over 100 Rochesterians who came to love their neighbors, to put their bodies in the way of harm, who never for a second thought that that kind of love should come with a price. And of course, I want us to say, of course, the power of oppression folded in the face of the power of that kind of love. We have in us a capacity to imagine a different way, and indeed to live a different way. Because you know already, we all do deep down, that nothing is owed in the grace of love. Our culture exerts so much effort trying to convince us that the system of commodity exchange is what's natural, pretending that an outlook of limitless consumption in the name of scarcity is natural. It insists on the narrative that this scarcity system is natural even though it must be heavily regimented and violently enforced to be sustained. It is a culture that claims this system of market economy is free, organic even though it requires the desecration of actual organisms to exist. And then it tries to apply the principle of scarcity even to the largest love we can imagine. And we, creatures of this earth, know in our bones that that is a lie, do we not? We know that love is much too bold and much too broad to be bought or sold. The love we have all known is not scarce. It doesn't trickle down from on high if only we offer enough to deserve it. It lives in the space between us and our neighbor, between us and the earth, between us and all of those we least expect to care about. And we get to take part in that love for absolutely free. And taking part in that love is the only way to be absolutely free. May it be so, and amen. Will you rise in body or in spirit and sing together our closing hymn, number 1017, We're Building a New Way. Please remain standing if you already are, as Elizabeth extinguishes our chalice flame this morning. Let us read the words together printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in, until we are together again. And as we close our service this morning, I invite you to place a hand over your heart. If you are joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you. And for those of us in the room, take a moment to look around at those gathered this morning. And I offer as a benediction these words from Robin Wall Kimmerer. Action on behalf of life transforms. Because the relationship between self and the world is reciprocal, it is not a question of first getting enlightened or saved and then acting. As we work to heal the earth heals us. Amen. everyone is invited to join us for coffee hour immediately after this service in the Clara Barton Lounge or online in the current Zoom meeting, and we hope to see you there.